On this episode of RC Kicks, we're back working on the 45th anniversary Porsche 934 Coupe. What are we doing? Well, we're adjusting the wheelbase. The TA02 short wheelbase doesn't necessarily line up that well with this body, but you can fix it with a few little mods. I've got all the details, so stay tuned. Right, let's fix the wheelbase on the Porsche 934. On this video, we're going to be focusing mainly on the front because they're the ones that are out by miles. The rear ones are out a 1 to 2 mil, but you can kind of leave them, or you can do the same sort of thing that we did on the front on the rear if you like. I haven't decided whether I'm going to do my back ones or not. Probably will at some point, but I'll show you the steps that I did on the front as that's the biggest change. Right, let's take the body off and have a good look. Now there's a few challenges we have with this one. We have to fix the top as well as the bottom. Now there is some cutting that you have to do, unfortunately, so you're going to have to take your brave pills, but you can pick up these arms, they are available. So I think we'll start with the top as that's the most simplest part. Now there's two aspects to when we push the wheelbase back that are going to be affected. One is the suspension and the bottom of the damper. Two is the top arm that comes across. Now since the whole lot is going back, that means that the damper is going to turn more vertical and start to foul against the upright. So there's that needs fixing, as well as the arm is obviously going to have a spacer fitted in it. So the first one is page 10, step 19, the top MC11, which is a 7x2mm shim. You need to remove that and replace it with a 7x4mm. Basically, you're just covering the extra ground as the wheels are moved backwards. Nice and simple, easy to do. I've actually done it myself. I went through my parts bin and I found that a 5x4mm black plastic also works. Yes, that means it's more narrow, but it still works. It's still the right distance of the 4mm. So basically, we're adding an extra 2mm on the top. So that fixes that problem. Super easy. You use the same bolt. You don't need to change it. It's fine. It's long enough to cope, and it only goes by 2mm more, so it's not really a problem. Now the shock, you will need to add a spacer on the bottom. But what I did is I actually used the spacer that was on the top arm, the 7x2mm. I then used that on the bottom, and that spaced out the actual shock itself, and that works fine. Didn't change the screw, didn't change the brass as well, so you didn't need any parts for that, and that worked fine. And that basically covers all the top. The steering, now as you move the whole wheel back, the steering angle will change, so you will have to adjust the tie rods to make them longer. Luckily, you can just about get away with it. It doesn't affect the steering, even though they're more tilted backwards. I didn't change anything to do with the hubs whatsoever, as well as the drive shafts. They're all fine. Now, obviously, the drive shaft angle changes a little bit, but not enough to foul any cups or anything like that. That's the easy stuff. The bit that's a little bit harder is this section underneath. Now what you've got to do on the bottom, you've got to get the F1 part, which is the lower arm, which is page 10, step 18. What you've got to do is you've got to remove a section off of the arm so that the arm can travel further backwards. So get your brave pills on. I snipped mine off, but that is not enough to push it back far enough. What you've actually got to do is you've got to go to the A3 part, which is on page 8, step 13. We have to mod that as well, and we have to remove a section off that. So we're moving the arm section and the actual mount on the bottom of the diff so that we can move the whole lot back. And that gives you the 5mm, because there's not enough in the arm just on it itself. I removed a bit of the front section, and that gives you plenty of space. So that's what takes care of actually moving the arms. But then you've got more space on this side of the arm, so you need to have a spacer. So that spacer is a 5mm long. It's an M3 will work, which is 3.2mm bore. I actually got these ones out of my Clod parts bin, and they're 5x5mm. And then they slot in perfectly well. If you've got them in plastic, it would work as well. I've got the metal ones, so I just use them. And that takes up the slack where you've actually moved everything back. So that works brilliantly, and there's no issues at all. It all works as it should. The only other impact you have is the actual pin, 3mm pin that goes through the whole lot. Because we've pushed the whole section backwards, this is actually limited by the front section of the bulkhead. It's not long enough. So you need to do away with this. Well, there's two things you could do. One, if you want to carry on using this, you can modify the actual front section here, which I didn't want to do. I didn't want to cut or modify that because you can actually see it. I wanted to try and keep it as stock as possible. So what I did, I took this and I didn't use it. And then I looked at a few different options to do with screw pins and metal pins. These will all work if you get the right lengths. But what I actually settled on in the end, which I bought, they're coming. I don't have them right now. I've actually just used some that I had in my parts bin, but they're just threaded through. You could just pull them out. I'm replacing them with 1/134s, 1/10 steel swing arm pins. They're 3mm thick, but they're 40mm long, and they're capped at the end. So you push them through and then you put a clip on the other side. Pretty sure I need 38 to 44mm, but I can also just put a spacer on the back and then just clip them on, and then that will look completely stock. And that's pretty much all you need. And then that pushes the wheels back and gives you the clearance to full steering, no problems at all. The suspension all carries on working as it should. On the back, you can pretty much do exactly the same thing. The back is easier, if anything. You just take a smaller section off of the rear arms, you move them forward, and then you do the same on the top like you did on the front, where you put an extra spacer in. I probably will do that at some point, but I'm quite happy with the stance and the way it works. I've fitted MST rims on this car. The reason I use these is they're adjustable offset, and you can really dial in the actual stance. And on the 934 bodies, it's all about getting the stance just right, and then it really looks the part. So there you go. I'll put all the information in the description. Obviously, I'm an idiot. This is how I do it. If you do it, you take it on your own risk. And yeah, good luck with that. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.